think a lot of people are aware that Kash Patel has been romantically linked to a woman named Alexis Wilkins, right? Alexis Wilkins. She's a country music sensation, allegedly. I don't know. I don't have any direct evidence about the country music sensation part. She is alleged to be. By the way, welcome back to another beta test of the 4K live stream. We've got a lot of technology working in concert, a panoply of interrelated technologies to bring you this live stream in 4K here from the beautiful High Line in New York City. And just so everyone can enjoy that, we'll switch into this fancy mode here. Right, and I'll go low key. Now, by the way, if you aren't a sponsor on subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. See, we've already been knocked down to a lower bit rate. So let's keep walking and see if the fancy technology works. But if you're a sponsor on subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth or on Substack, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, or if you're watching on any of the YouTube channels, I'm going to be monitoring chat on the Jason Goodman YouTube channel. People will be able to share their thoughts and ideas with me about the FBI, Lawfare, Alexis Wilkins, Kash Patel, Sam Parker. I think he considers himself to be based Sam Parker. I don't know what that's based on, but we're also testing out this bonded network array. Unless you're watching on one of those channels, you're not getting it in 4K. If you're watching on X at JG_CSTT, thanks for joining there. For reasons only Elon Musk can explain, you can't get 4K on X, but I do want to thank the people who sponsor the show and support me on X. Anyway, a lot of people saw last week that Alexis Wilkins suffered a defeat in district court. She was suing this guy, Sam Parker, which, by the way, I don't know either of them personally. I don't particularly care for Sam Parker. We should see the quality coming back now. We're moving back up to our higher bit rate. I'm specifically taking everybody on a walk through these challenging areas because I know the mobile data network gets kind of weak over here, and this system is being tweaked to survive weak network performance and deliver the peak 4K image quality irrespective of network connectivity, and then bounce back to higher quality when it's able. But people might have seen Alexis Wilkins, she sued Sam Parker. There are a bunch of people who have accused Miss Wilkins of being an FBI, a Mossad honeypot, you know, sort of a super attractive girl who attracts a target, in this case Kash Patel, FBI Director Kash Patel. I don't have any direct evidence that she is that.
I'm actually
Other people have made that claim. I'm just citing their allegation. Miss Wilkins is quite litigious. I want to explore that. I'm certainly no fan of the FBI, Kash Patel, or Lawfare. I don't know Alexis Wilkins. I've never interacted with her. She's quite pretty. I have to admit that. I haven't even ever heard her sensational country music, but whatever, that's irrelevant. The point is, she brought this lawsuit. There are a few. She's got one against Kyle Seraphin, who I really don't like. He's an asshole. I was speaking with Ken Silva the other day about Kyle Seraphin and Wilkins v. Seraphin. I think this highlight exposure mode is much better than the smart exposure mode. And we should be back up to full 4K quality here if you're watching on one of the sponsored channels or on YouTube. How are people doing? I'm monitoring the chat on the Jason Goodman YouTube channel. Hello, Jeff. So Jeff, you've been with me for several of these 4K beta tests. This is a problematic area over here. but the network is holding. It's a complicated thing, this bonded link aggregating, whatever you call it, but I do believe I've finally got an understanding of how it's intended to work, and my hope is that it will work properly. But Ms. Wilkins, she's sued Kyle Seraphin. I mean, as I understand it, the lawsuits are all based on this allegation that she's a Mossad honeypot. I haven't seen any evidence of that. I mean, we could infer from the fact that, you know, Kash Patel looks like kind of a googly-eyed dope, but, you know, there's no accounting for taste. Maybe he can pull hot girls. I don't know. He is the FBI director. I think power is quite seductive to some people. He's also got lots of money, right? He's written books and had a successful podcast. He's homeboys with Dan Bongino, and, you know, he was a big influencer, podcaster, guest. Maybe he has tons of dough. And who knows, maybe he's super nice to her. We can't really judge who the woman chooses to date. I don't know if these guys making these allegations have any direct evidence that she is a Mossad honeypot. I think there was they cited the fact that she worked for Prager University and that Dennis Prager had made statements about working for Mossad. Again, I don't know anything more about this than whatever people see on the internet. My interest in this case is the Lawfare aspect of it. People know I talk about Lawfare quite a lot. Now, we've got a bad network area over here, so we might be dipping down again, but like I said, if everything is working properly, you should notice the quality return as soon as the network allows it. We'll see how that goes. I didn't know anything about Lawfare until I became a victim of it, and I've been doing my best to try to educate people because it's a complicated subject, and I haven't heard too many people delve into the area of counter Lawfare in the way that I do. I guess I should define it a bit more. Is that called tomography? No, there's some word, I don't know what the word is, but defining the terms of something has a word, and we should define it. I mean, counter Lawfare involves not only counteracting Lawfare with the law, but understanding the contours, the details, the finer points. You know, Lawfare is not just bringing a crappy lawsuit against somebody. That's just vexatious litigation. We're back. I got a little gauge here. Blue for strong network, orange to red, and then black is bad news. But we're in the blue, so should have good quality right here.
Somali.
I was first a victim of Lawfare at the hands of Robert David Steele. It's been coming up on 9 years. He brought his lawsuit against me in September of 2017, and that was all related to the Port of Charleston. Let's take a moment to look at the Statue of Liberty, shall we? Can you see it? All the way out there? It's tiny. We're not getting good focus. There it is. Anyway, Robert David Steele brought his stupid fake lawsuit against me because I had pointed out that he was running a nonprofit 501c3 public charity called Earth Intelligence Network that looked like a scam to me. And I say that because, you know, Charles Ortel has taught me a lot about these nonprofits and how they're supposed to be run. It's a stunning disappointment how many of them are not run properly. And by the way, it's not just a stunning disappointment and a little thing. You know, if you're upset that all of your money, you can't afford groceries. By the way, me too. Groceries, gasoline, your car payments, all of that, and you got to pay high taxes. You should be very concerned about this problem of misuse of tax-exempt funds because you are subsidizing it. These millionaires and billionaires and now trillionaires, although I don't know that the trillionaire is doing this. I haven't necessarily seen any evidence that, I don't think Elon Musk is running any fraudulent nonprofits. He's got a family foundation, I think, but that's his own billions. The millionaires and billionaires seem to be experts at running these fraudulent nonprofits, and they're stealing your money, and nobody's doing anything about it. And by the way, Kash Patel, he's the director of the FBI, so I get particularly upset when the individuals who are tasked with enforcing the law appear to be breaking it. Welcome, Brad. Yes, still 4K. We're in the red, though, I think. In that concrete hut, the signal weakens, and there might be a momentary lapse of reason, but it should come back. The way I've got it set right now, it could take us a few seconds to get back because it's checking the network to make sure it's safe to broadcast at 4K. Like, was it Laurence Olivier who's trying to drill, what's his name, who plays Tootsie? Dustin Hoffman's teeth. Is it safe? It's very safe. Marathon Man, did people see that movie? That's a crazy 1970s espionage thriller. Something to do with Nazis, I don't really remember. Point is, I get very upset when people who are tasked with defending and upholding the law seem to be breaking it, like judges and FBI directors and stuff like that. So Alexis Wilkins, she's bringing all these lawsuits against people. She's represented by the Binal law firm, not the Banal law firm, Binal. The managing partner there, or the head of the place, whatever you call it, is a attorney named Jesse Binal, who, again, I don't know this guy. I first became aware of him when Robert David Steele's jackass attorney, Stephen Biss, stroked out. Remember how General Flynn's mentally challenged brother, Joe, blew a gasket when I said something like, you know, Stephen Biss had a stroke, and I said, when you make your life about, you know, bringing misery to other people, you become toxic, and that toxicity can express itself in all kinds of ways. Something like that about Stephen Biss. Joe Flynn went nuts. And that was weird because I had previously thought Joe Flynn was a friend of mine. That got me looking into the Flynn's apparent misuse of nonprofits. Looks to me like them and Patrick Byrne and all of those dudes, his family members and stuff, they seem to be also abusing your tax-exempt funds. Why is it red if we're at 6? It should be orange. Anyway, I think we're still 4K. But the point is there's a network here, right? So Jesse Binal took over Stephen Biss's cases when Biss stroked out. And then we had that guy, Elliot Page. He was assigned by, I can't remember if it was the court or the Virginia Bar Association, but he became the conservator or something like that of the Stephen Biss law firm, meaning he was appointed to do something with the cases, you know, find new attorneys or whatever. He was appearing in court. He, as far as I could tell, he denied it, but it was super obvious that, to me, my opinion, that he was lying. He denied writing these documents for Robert David Steele's wife, because that would mean that he had appeared on her behalf as her attorney, and they were still trying to do lawfare. You can't do that. Robert David Steele was the principal officer at his nonprofit, and if it's 501c3 public charity organized under Section 170B1A6, as Charles has told me, it's got to be disinterested parties that are the board of directors. It can't be an entire family running it. You've got a private foundation. You've got a family foundation, you know. If Charlie Kirk wants to create the Kirk Family Foundation and have his wife take it over when he dies, that's fine. It doesn't seem appropriate for the wife to take over the public nonprofit charity in the way that she has. That was one beef that Charles had with Turning Point. So, you know, this isn't about one side or the other. This is about whoever it is abusing our money and the law. So anyway, Binal took over the Stephen Biss lawsuits, and that made me immediately suspicious because all this weird stuff happened. People might remember I had a phone call with that guy, Elliot Park, where he was super suspicious, saying stuff about, Stephen Biss's laptop had gone missing or been stolen. I contacted the police in Charlotte, Virginia. They didn't have any kind of police report about the laptop being stolen or the thing being broken into. Manuel Chavez got involved with Stephen Biss's wife, helping her, recover data from it or something. There's all this weird stuff going on with Stephen Biss's laptop, which undoubtedly contained information about his clients and his cases and whatever kind of weird crap Stephen Biss was up to. But all of these shenanigans eventually led to Steele v. Goodman being dismissed. The court behaved very strangely. The judge allowed Robert David Steele's wife to step in as the director of the nonprofit. You can't do that. You cannot bequeath. Is that a 12-cylinder Jaguar? I think it is. That's kind of a classic. XK8. I guess it's the 8-cylinder. Point is, it's called a Virginia non-stock corporation because nobody owns it. It's a public charity. It's a nonprofit. It's not a place for you to park millions of dollars and do whatever you want with tax-free $2, $3, $4 million. But yet that's what many of these people do. When I met Robert David Steele, that stupid charity had collected something like $25,000, something like that, very low. $25,000 one year, $60,000 another year. And then after interacting with me, it went up to $170,000. He was trying to say that I damaged his fundraising capability, but in fact, the records indicated that he had a record year when he was interacting with me. Probably not related, but it certainly didn't support his claim that I had done something to harm his fundraising. Charlottesville? Charlotte, Virginia, not Charlottesville. Did I say Charlottesville? Stephen Biss's office was in Charlotte, Virginia. Oh, look, is that Elon Musk? No. Stephen Biss was in Charlotte, Virginia, where his office was allegedly broken into and this laptop went missing. We still don't know what was on that Stephen Biss laptop. Dan Bongino was a Stephen Biss client. Okay. Devin Nunes was a Stephen Biss client. Stephen Biss represented, I believe, Donald Trump Media and Entertainment in all of their interactions with Rumble. There's a cloud services agreement between Truth Social and Rumble, as far as I know, or there was at one point. Rumble was hosting Truth Social on their cloud. So Stephen Biss was, getting in there very close to all these people who are close to Trump. I believe Stephen Biss represented Kash Patel, definitely represented Dan Bongino. And again, Jesse Banal took over these Stephen Biss cases, not Steele v. Goodman. Banal did not get involved in that. I don't know why, but I got that case dismissed after, 6, 7 years of great hardship. So the reason why I'm talking about this now is because this case of Alexis Wilkins versus Sam Parker, it's quite interesting because, again, I don't know if she is or is not associated with Mossad in any way. She's certainly a public figure, a limited purpose public figure, from the standpoint that she's publicly spoken about dating. Oh man, we're down at 2 megabits, so the 4K is looking bad over here. Well, that's all right. We're going to continue testing it, and we'll move over to an area where I think we might have better network performance. Oh boy, is this still? Yeah, it's still connected. Okay, so she would seem to be a limited purpose public figure at least, and so a defamation claim surviving in that circumstance is quite rare and unlikely. And by the way, I'm not a lawyer, so none of this is legal advice. This is just anecdotal information that I'm observing from facts and details in the public domain. sharing my experience with these people in court for your entertainment, education, whatever you want. I'm not qualified to give legal advice. Nothing I say is legal advice. Not North Carolina, Charlottesville, Virginia? You're right. So Stephen, maybe Charlottesville, Virginia. That must be right. Charlottesville, Virginia. Anyway, the point is Stephen Biss said his office had gotten broken into and the laptop was stolen, but the police didn't know anything about it, and there was no public reports of a break-in. I think I might have even called the real estate company and asked them. It was just sketchy as hell. The whole, was the office broken into or not, and what was on the laptop. Well, we're right below 6 over here. It should improve. And I think we've got the lay of the network over here. Let's head over towards the center of the city, maybe where the network is strong. Oh no, it's getting better. So Wilkins sues Kyle Seraphin and Sam Parker. I mean, I think Sam Parker was basically just retweeting essentially the same information. Kyle Seraphin, he's likely to succeed by saying these things are his opinion and it's hyperbolic speech about a political figure. He's criticizing the FBI director, the girlfriend. They say she's a country music sensation, so, I mean, does that mean she's famous? Because that cuts against her ability to easily win a defamation case. But the point is, the case is brought against Sam Parker in Utah. The headline that I saw, there we go, now we're getting back up to the proper 4K bitrate. Headline that I saw on Twitter was that, oh, Alexis Wilkins suffers a humiliating defeat in court, that her case was dismissed. And now it's true that the case was dismissed, but the part that they're not telling you is that it was dismissed without prejudice, meaning it could be brought back if Miss Wilkins decides that's what she wants to do. And it was dismissed for lack of personal jurisdiction over Sam Parker, meaning this is Utah federal court, and Sam Parker doesn't live in Utah federal court. It doesn't live in Utah, you know, in the jurisdiction of the district court that the lawsuit was brought in. Alexis Wilkins doesn't live in Utah, and so that's not the proper venue, and it was dismissed. Now, how did that come about, and why? Well, again, now we need to speculate a little bit because we can look at the docket and read the filings and understand what went on, but you'd have to ask Jesse Binnall and Alexis Wilkins. It's entirely possible that Alexis Wilkins doesn't even necessarily know. She's not an attorney, and this is pretty complicated stuff, but the point is, in 2018, Sam Parker ran for Senate. Hello, Switzerland. How's the 4K look in Switzerland? Let us know. Sam Parker ran for U.S. Senate in Utah in 2018. And there are artifacts from that around on the internet. His campaign made videos and things like that. And, you know, you could check the FEC. There's lots of ways that lawyers and especially law firms like the Binnall law firm's got a bunch of people working for it who could do research for Jesse Binnall, figure out where Sam Parker is. And the point is, you need to know where the target of the lawsuit is, because that's how you choose the venue, unless you want to sue. It's my understanding that Ms. Wilkins lives in Tennessee, so she could sue in Tennessee and say, hey, this court has jurisdiction because I live in Tennessee and the damage to the plaintiff was done in Tennessee, and so this court has jurisdiction over that. She could have done that, but she didn't. So they say, okay, Sam Parker, he's in Utah, according to them, or at least he was in 2018. And so once you bring the lawsuit, you now have to serve the other parties. You got to present them with the lawsuit and summon them to court. So to do that, you need to know where they live. This is another important aspect of lawfare. This is why, you know, vagrant losers like George Webb and his brother don't have an address that's easily discernible. George is something of a vagabond. He goes all over the place. It's funny, see, those guys told me that you in New York City can make a right turn and your network conditions can change, which they seems to, that just happened. Let's see if it comes back. But if you don't know where the person is, it's very difficult to serve them, and there's a lot of people who try to avoid service. In Goodman versus the City of New York, when I sued the cops, the city, Elon Musk, and Twitter, Elon Musk evaded service. First of all, it was difficult to find where to serve him. I eventually did, but he tried to avoid service. I tried to seek a waiver of service from his known attorney. They weren't having it. Anyway, throughout the course of Wilkins v. Parker, they determined that he couldn't be served at his previous address in Utah, and through whatever method, they learned that he was living in Washington State. Now, I don't think Sam Parker would have volunteered that, so it's reasonable to presume that through additional research, the Banal law firm figured it out. Either they found updated address records, looked at his voting records. There's lots of ways you can figure out where somebody lives. Maybe someone who doesn't like Sam Parker, tip them off. Whatever it is, eventually they did find his address in Washington State and successfully served him. And so, in my view, a legitimate lawsuit, this is my opinion, there could be reasons why this is incorrect, but it would seem logical that a legitimate lawsuit, when they learn the true domicile of the defendant, would move to change the venue out of Utah into Washington, where the guy lives. Because an experienced attorney like Jesse Banal should have easily anticipated that the case was likely to be dismissed for lack of personal jurisdiction over Sam Parker, which is exactly what happened. It's the wrong venue. Now, again, I'm saying this because in my experience, bringing lawsuits in the wrong venue is exactly the type of thing that lawfare practitioners do, because the purpose of lawfare is not to actually win a lawsuit, it is to burden the target with a lawsuit and then bring another one and burden them again. So if you can force Sam Parker to have to hire an attorney in Utah, where maybe he doesn't know that many people. Now, in this case, Sam Parker had run for Senate in Utah, so it's, again, reasonable to presume that he knows people. Maybe he lived in Utah previously, probably knows attorneys who he can hire. Something's on fire. Got a lot of fire trucks. A lot of noise in fire trucks. Low bit rate all around here. I don't understand. I was checking and it was way higher. It's stuck down in the basement. Let's see if it makes its way back up. But it looks like, I forget the name of the attorney that Sam hired. I don't know the guy. I'm not criticizing him. But if it's a friend, you know, maybe $5,000, $10,000, maybe less, maybe more. It's tough to get an attorney when you're being sued in district court, because in my experience, what law firms say is, oh, you know, I know you're saying this is just a nuisance lawsuit and it's going to be easy to get it dismissed, but we don't know you, you don't have a lot of money, this could go on for years, it could go to trial, we need a $50,000, $100,000 retainer. By the way, that is what Lawfare is attempting to do, get you to retain lawyers in all kinds of different jurisdictions, because they know that if you retain a lawyer, and this happened to me, by the way, you retain a lawyer in, let's say, Michigan, and you pay them $10,000, and you get the case dismissed after the first document, you don't get the $10,000 back. That's how legal retainers work. So anyway, Alexis Wilkins did not move to change the venue to Washington State when it was learned that Sam Parker no longer resided in Utah. And you might say to yourself, well, so what? What's the difference, Jason? Maybe they thought they would win. They were already in court. Why bother? Her attorneys would have to file another pro hoc vice motion. Not a big deal, by the way. That's what you file when you're licensed in another state in good standing and you want to go and practice in a state where you're not licensed. It's a very boilerplate kind of a thing. Motion to appear pro hoc vice happens all the time. But there's something called anti-SLAPP. A SLAPP lawsuit is a strategic lawsuit against public participation. It's sort of a counter Lawfare thing, these anti-SLAPP lawsuits, anti-SLAPP laws, I should say. They're designed to rapidly dismiss lawsuits that are brought for an improper purpose. And the thing is, there is no federal anti-SLAPP statute. It's interesting. So these SLAPP laws, they vary greatly from state to state. In fact, there was no anti-SLAPP in New York at all when this began, or it was very, very weak. It's been improved, I think, since then. Texas, I think, is quite strong. Certain states have stronger anti-SLAPP. Maybe Texas isn't one of them, but Utah is one where they've already decided in federal court, in district court, that anti-SLAPP conflicts with the federal rules of procedure, Rule 12 and Rule 56. Those federal rules already have anticipated measures for disposing of, vexatious lawsuits. So they do not allow anti-SLAPP dismissals. And by the way, from the standpoint of Alexis Wilkins and the Binal law firm, an anti-SLAPP motion would be very, very bad because that has a mandatory fee shifting component where you have to pay the defendant's legal fees, and that could run into 6 figures. So again, they're trying to, in my opinion, when I look at the totality of filings in this case, looks to me like they're trying to avoid anti-SLAPP. The good news for Sam Parker, and again, I'm not a lawyer. None of this is legal advice. I don't even like Sam Parker. He's part of the Kick Jason Out of the X Space Society because Jason's a Jew. So he's a pretty reprehensible guy in my view. But it looks like he's in luck. I would be quite surprised if this case were brought back. Now we're back in the blue, finally. So we should be rocking it at 4K right now. But I would be quite surprised if we see this case. It is diabolical, InfoFacts. I would be quite surprised. I could be proven wrong. I don't know. I haven't seen Alexis Wilkins comment on whether or not they will bring this case back. They now know the proper venue. They have the guy's address. They know where to serve him. But that's the thing. Why would you do that? Now, if she wants to sue him in Washington, she's got to pay another $550 filing fee. You got to pay another hundreds of dollars to a process server. Whereas once you had him served and he shows up and says, hey, motion to dismiss, this court doesn't have personal jurisdiction over me because I moved out of Utah in 2021, you could have said, fine, motion to transfer venue to Washington. Then the Utah judge would likely grant that and say, boom, transfer to Washington State. Now you're in a lawsuit in Washington State. But there, Wilkins would have been subject to an anti-SLAPP motion to dismiss, a special motion to dismiss pursuant to Washington State statute, anti-SLAPP. And then Wilkins would be paying his legal fee by court order, potentially. And, like I said, I could be wrong. She could be so incensed by this accusation that she is a Mossad honeypot that she wants to sue and go crazy. But I don't know. We'll see. By the way, I was looking at all the filings here on Pacer. right? She's got a few lawsuits. Not all of these Alexis Wilkins are her, but she's got several lawsuits there, you can see. On this one, here we go into the docket. Yeah, right, the order, a lot of people didn't get the order because you got to display the docket text, but it says right in there that it's granted without prejudice a motion to dismiss for lack of jurisdiction. Okay? Meaning they don't have jurisdiction over Sam there without prejudice, meaning she can bring the case back if that's what she wants to do. We'll see. I don't think it makes strategic sense to bring it back from the standpoint of lawfare. If I'm right, and this is a lawfare case, and the Banal law firm is a lawfare law firm, which I think it is, my opinion hasn't been proven in any kind of court, but that is my opinion based on how they act and what they do and the general menagerie of scumbags they represent, not necessarily including Alexis Wilkins, country music sensation girlfriend of FBI Director Kash Patel, but other people. Ah, we have a street fair here. That's cool. Do we want 4K street fair? Ooh, we can get 4K of me getting run over by people on bicycles. Yeah, we've got good network performance here. Let's check out the street fair in 4K. So we'll see. I could be proven wrong if she brings this case back. We'll see. I don't think she will. Because the other thing is, why didn't she sue him in Tennessee? Tennessee also has pretty strong anti-SLAPP. No, I think Texas is one of the places where they've determined in federal court that you can't use anti-SLAPP. That's where Carl Serafin is getting sued. So this is venue shopping, in my opinion, a key to lawfare. It's a strategic game of, antagonizing your opponent with vexatious litigation and making it go on for years and years. And I've had to study this because George's lunatic brother engages in it like crazy. Boy, there's a lot more fluctuation on the network than I would anticipate. I guess it's better than getting disconnected. How's the 4K treating everybody? What do people think about this? Just an honest, has anyone heard an update on the health and well-being of attorney Stephen Biss? No, there's been no update. In fact, I haven't even seen any evidence that he actually had a stroke. And let's examine that. I'm glad you asked that, InfoFacts. So, well, you may be right, George Webb lost his YouTube. Oh, good, I'm not surprised. He does a lot of irresponsible things on that YouTube channel. I haven't seen him in a long, long time, but, I saw he, what was he doing on there? He got a phone call from, I forget who, but he was just talking to her without telling her that it was being broadcast. Sibel Edmonds. Yeah, George, he's a terrible guy. So the health and well-being of Stephen Biss. I don't know what's going on with the health and well-being of Stephen Biss. I have never even seen what I consider tangible evidence that he did in fact have a stroke. Because let's examine the people around that whole Stephen Biss, world. Robert David Steele, boom. We get an announcement from El Nino, what's his name, David Nino Rodriguez, that he died of COVID or something, and that they put him on a ventilator, but they show a picture of him wearing a respirator. So that's conflicting reporting, makes me suspicious. Robert David Steele claimed to be a CIA, officer, agent, who the hell knows what. But, he was the one who initiated this lawfare against me with Stephen Biss. Jesse Banal took over Stephen Biss's cases. Robert David Steele allegedly dies in 2021, but that same year, Robert David Steele's nonprofit Earth Intelligence Network has the biggest fundraising year by far in its entire history, $2.8 or $2.9 million. He vanishes, owing people tons of money. We're back in the blue, so we should be full strength 4K over here. Let's check out Washington Square Park. So he disappears. This guy, Elliot Park, who is assigned to be the conservator of the BIS law firm and is the guy who told me on the phone that the BIS laptop was missing, he claimed to have, anything better than disconnections is great. Right. That dude, Elliot Park, he implied that he knew something about the missing laptop, but wouldn't say exactly what it was. It was very suspicious. And then he went missing. He was teaching a law class at William and Mary, I think. Is that the law school in Virginia? But some parent of a student called me and said, hey, I saw your YouTube show about this guy, Elliot Park. And this parent told me that she was trying to figure out what the hell was going on because her daughter went to law school one day and they said, yeah, that guy disappeared. So where is he? Is he dead? What I'm getting at is a lot of these guys, like, did Stephen Biss actually have a stroke? I have no way of knowing. I think Mary Talley Bowden was trying to track him down. He ripped her off. Biss ripped off Dr. What's his name? Oh, how am I forgetting his name? Robert Malone. Biss ripped off Malone. So again, I don't know Robert Malone. I've spoken to him on the phone. I would actually say he's an exceptionally friendly and diplomatic guy. He had no need or reason to be nice to me or John Cullen after some of the things we said about him online. But yet, he reached out to bury the hatchet and came on my show. Very diplomatic of him. He didn't have to do that. After that, I came to the conclusion that Dr. Malone was the target of Lawfare. I had contacted Malone when I saw that George Webb was suing him. And I said, Dr. Malone, be very careful. Your attorney, Stephen Biss, George Webb on the other side of the caption, I think this is a Lawfare thing. Because I could tell, by the way, I'm not just out here friendly neighborhood counter Lawfare warning system. I anticipated that George Webb was ginning up this litigation against Malone to drag me in, because that's what him and his brother have done many times. So I was calling Malone to warn him of that, and he was suspicious of me on the phone, so I got angry with him. So InfoFact says the whole situation around his stroke and the laptop are suspicious because that weasel DeFango was involved somewhere with the laptop. Well, I mean, here's what I'll say about Manuel Chavez. He and I have an unofficial truce. At a certain point, he came to me and told me he wanted to basically extricate himself from the Lawfare people and offered to share emails with me between himself and Stephen Biss and Robert David Steele and Stephen Biss's wife. And he did share those emails, and they were helpful in getting the case dismissed. So I don't disparage Manuel Chavez. He leaves me alone. I leave him alone. I'm happy with that. In fact, there was a time where he and I brushed past each other on social media, and we sort of just agreed to let bygones be bygones. But yeah, that was suspicious. He had something to do with recovering data from the laptop on behalf of the wife. I think Manuel Chavez was friends with or received money from, I don't know, had some sort of a interaction or relationship with Biss's wife. And in the emails that he shared with me was either Robert David Steele or Biss saying, hey, we want you to sue Goodman in Arizona at the same time that we're suing Goodman in Virginia. So you see how this works? They want to bombard you with lawsuits because at that time, their plan was, Jason will have to retain counsel in Arizona, he'll have to retain counsel in Virginia, then we'll get George's brother to sue him in North Carolina or South Carolina, wherever that was. He'll have to hire 3 attorneys, $50,000 retainer in each state, will break his back, and he'll have to settle these lawsuits because he won't be able to defend them all. Financially will cripple him. This is what I allege their plan was. And so again, I've had to figure out all these lawfare tactics for myself. The crazy wife, right.
So it's like, how do I say no to her?
Wait a minute, who went to the same school? Arg Ninja says it's interesting that who went to the same school as Tucker in Switzerland. That is interesting. See, there was an allegation that Stephen Biss was CISA, Canadian, what does it stand for? Canadian Intelligence Secret Agency or something like that? Services? I don't know. That was an allegation. Oh, we've got bad network performance right here. Let's keep going this way. Well, let's go into the park. Maybe it'll improve. But there was an allegation that Biss was CISA. He is Canadian, and he is incredibly stupid. I don't know how he got into Princeton. I mean, he was observably stupid and a terrible attorney. Really, really bad. So I don't know how he went to Princeton or became an attorney, and I don't know if he's CISA, but that was an allegation. But the point is, all of these guys just disappear. You know, Robert David Steele, everything around his death was very suspicious. Didn't see the death certificate until I basically compelled his wife to produce it in court. And I learned later that that was very unusual for a court to not simply take a person's word for it that a particular party had died. Normally that's just accepted at an attorney's word. So ostensibly there was enough suspicion surrounding it that a district court, for whatever that's worth, demanded that they present proof in the form of the death certificate. Then they let Robert David Steele out of the case, and the wife took over. Don't all country singers go to school in Switzerland? Oh, the country singer. That is weird. Didn't she grow up in Arkansas or Louisiana? Those are pretty economically depressed states. I mean, if you told me she was from Los Angeles or New York or Washington, D.C., and she went to school in Switzerland, that might make a little more sense. Biss's wife was connected to Andrea Chalupa. I didn't know that. Yes, Svetlana Lakova was also represented by Biss. I've never really been able to sort out if she was working for him or being worked on by him. Svetlana Lakova, I don't really trust her. She had a self-published book that was very much in the same style as George Webb and his brother. It seems to me they have a bunch of ways. I'm red and flashing now. This might be super bad network over here. This is an unmapped area. Seems to me there's certain ways that they funnel money to these people. Super chat and, you know, self-published books on Amazon. It's almost like it's the same. Like, I look at these self-published books on Amazon, and each of them have certain similarities that I don't know really anything about self-publishing books on Amazon. I've never done it, but I have a feeling if you tried to do it, there's got to be a way to make your book look a bit different than every other book on there. And the fact that all of these people have books that look identical make me think maybe one person or one group is organizing these books for them. It's very weird. But yeah, they all sort of disappear. And so, I mean, my question is, are they actually dead, or is this just some way of, you know, taking a chess piece off the board? That's a weird little fat guy on a tiny little scooter, isn't it? Well, it's unfortunate how much of the live stream is dangling around in the low bit rate section here. Chalupa targeted Manafort. Yeah, that's right. Well, Chalupa we've heard a lot about from Andrei Telizhenko. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Because you see, I'm saying Lawfare, this all connects back to the Lawfare Institute. Didn't this used to be LIbel Epoch, or that billiards place or something? The Lawfare Institute, Ben Wittes.
No, the big part? Oh my God.
David Priest. Jim Baker. the Lawfare Institute, okay? If you have something called the Lawfare Institute, and I'm glad you brought that up, because there's one more little artifact that I wanted to talk about. So Kash Patel, we already know, there's been reporting that he had this cynical cash grab. The FBI chief nominee, Kash Patel, profited from links in the nonprofit world. So this is talking about his Kash Foundation, which is another one of these super questionable 501c3s where everybody on the board, by the way, we're going to see something in a minute here. Look who is the principal officer of this thing. It's Jesse Banal. And it goes to the address of his law office. So that's quite interesting, isn't it? But there's something else in here worth looking at. The money from this thing, they do give, some money to charities that help law enforcement and certain things like that. But a huge sum, and what that article is complaining about is that a huge sum goes to this marketing company, which makes t-shirts and stuff, that someone on the board of directors of this thing, and that article alleges Kash Patel as well, own that. So loads of the nonprofit money are going to this for-profit company 1&0, which makes t-shirts. So that's questionable self-dealing evidence. There's, so here are the financial contributions to charities that may legitimately help to some extent law enforcement people, but I don't think that's an excuse to break the law. And there's something truly offensive hidden in here. Where is this? Is that it? Yeah, look at that. The Kash Patel Legal Offense Trust got $150,000. That might be more money than what he was giving to all the law enforcement charities and people. And so what the hell is that? How is that nonprofit to have a legal offense fund? That should not be allowed. That's a lawfare fund. What is legal offense? It's not a legal offense. He hasn't committed some offense for which he's collecting money for his own legal defense. I think we've seen a lot of people do that. But by the way, I don't think that's tax exempt. We should ask Douglas Mackey. Was he able to write off the money that he raised when he was a victim of lawfare for publishing a meme about Hillary Clinton? And he went through hundreds of thousands of dollars of legal bills and was facing potential jail time. I bet you he had to pay tax on that money because it's considered income, and all the people donating the money to him had to pay tax on their income that they then donated to him. So do you see how this all works and why it's such a problem and so crooked? Now, why is that crooked? Let's see, does it level out if I stop walking? It does, slowly. But that's the thing. See, when I ask people to support Crowdsource the Truth by sponsoring the show on subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, or by going to crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, I'm asking you to buy something. It's a subscription to a video service, subscriber-only videos, and to support the journalism of Crowdsource the Truth. I never say that it's tax deductible because it isn't, and this is a for-profit endeavor. Likewise, anyone who follows me on X at JG_CSTT and subscribes there, you pay tax on your income, so you're retaining 60-70% of what you earn, then paying $5 a month out of that. Look at this, the future of garbage. Then it comes to me as income, and I pay tax on that. These shysters, the people giving the money to a 501c3 nonprofit public charity, take a tax write-off. So if you know you're going to pay less taxes, $1,000 deduction if you give $1,000 to the Kash Foundation, that would encourage contribution. And here, these are lawyers in the making, Cordoza Law School. But the point is, by making your business endeavor, nonprofit tax-exempt thing, it encourages lots of donations. And then if you use that money for a legal offense fund to pay the banal law firm to represent your girlfriend suing people who put out news articles that you don't like, it just doesn't seem like the type of thing that taxpayers should be subsidizing in the form of a tax-exempt charity. That's my opinion. I feel like it is a form of theft and should not be allowed. Now, to be clear, I'm not sure that any of this that I'm pointing out is actually illegal. It's run by a lawyer. He might have studied nonprofit law and, to the letter, have this thing set up. Let's go this way. Have this thing set up so that they can do this and not get into trouble. Some of it was spoken about in the congressional confirmation of Cash Grab Patel. Yeah, she worked as a press secretary for Abraham Hamada, who is also a former U.S. Army intel officer. Wow, I didn't know that. That is interesting. Grade school in Switzerland. That is interesting. Well, look, I'm accusing her of engaging in lawfare.
But I'm telling you.
So that's actually not illegal because they're doing it. So it's not the same as accusing her of a crime. I don't know if it's even defamatory, but I think it's pretty crappy what they're doing. And it seems to me like they're misappropriating funds. It really does. What else do people know about the country music sensation? Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I've been to Arkansas. I've been to Louisiana. It's not really a place that lots of international diplomats are coming from. Country music singers, sure. But I don't know. I really think that we need some new laws. I mean, Cash Patel makes millions of dollars. Now he works for the FBI. He should not be able to have tax shelters that appear to be funneling money to law firms that sue people who he doesn't like. If he wants to use his own money to pay Jesse Banal to sue Sam Parker because he doesn't like what Sam Parker says, that's fine. That's fine. But you should not be able to engage in lawfare like this. So it's doing a good job of getting back up to higher bit rate when it gets knocked down, but it really knocks down.
It's not about you, though.
What do people think? Are we enjoying the 4K? And we lose it when we make a left. It's interesting. How's it going on X? People should be able to watch in HD on X. Yeah, it's live. Well, this is a pretty successful beta test. Maybe there's a way to tweak the settings so it doesn't knock it down quite so fast. Still going on X. 21 people watching on X. Thanks for doing that, everybody. A lot of people have seen John Cullen's recent return on X. He's getting involved in lawfare too. Remember, why is this thing tilting like that? Come on, get back to straight. He tried to get me sued, I allege, by including my image in a tweet that David Freiheit construed as a death threat against Robert Barnes. A lot of people have been asking me about this. What happened between me and Cullen? Maybe you and Cullen should make up. There is no chance that I will reconcile with John Cullen. I already tried to do that with him once. Basically what happened was, back in 2024, after the Butler, PA incident, people might have noticed he really experienced tremendous growth after that, in large part due to his reporting on the bullet trajectory down the back row of the bleachers. And that was good reporting. He found that. Good work. Someone sent it to him however he got it, but you know, his keen eye and attention to detail with things about bullets allowed him to determine to myself, you know, first I said, look, you know, you guys have worked together for a long time. He's a friend of yours. I've seen this happen before. You know, when my production company, 21st Century 3D, when we got big, or, you know, something like that, and they just start acting like jerks. And I figured, all right, that's what he's doing. I can tolerate it. People are watching the shows. I need the money, I need the subscribers. I'll eat a little bit of shit and not make a big deal out of it. Oh, my cooler has shut off. That's no good. That's why the thing is getting so hot. Is the battery dead? The battery is dead. All right, let's switch. That's important. We don't want to overheat. See, I've got all these gauges now. It's turning red. Anyway, he was acting like an intolerable jerk. And it just came to a breaking point where I said, you know, I'm going to end our collaboration. And he just really didn't seem to mind. He sent me an email. He said, oh, I'm in tears. Thanks for, you know, helping me do the best work of my life and earn a living, et cetera, et cetera. I was a bit surprised. I mean, whatever, I wanted to end the interaction with him, so I wasn't gonna, you know, call him or anything, but I was a bit surprised that he wouldn't have called at least to say, hey, wait, what are you talking about? Why are you doing this? Maybe apologize, maybe see if there was a way we could avoid ending the show, but he obviously didn't care, so we just ended the show and I didn't speak to him for like 10 months. Then, after I, on September 12th, 2025, published a video revealing what looks like drones flying around the Charlie Kirk assassination, and I didn't just pluck them out and say, oh, these dots flying through the sky are drones. I did a detailed analysis of Adam Bartholomew's video that I was prompted to do because of my expertise. I noticed that Adam Bartholomew, I noticed that Adam Bartholomew's video cut out 1 second before Charlie Kirk was killed, and I just found that too coincidental to be a coincidence. As I investigated further, I determined that it was caused by a Bluetooth low energy attack on his phone that cut off the broadcast. And when I spoke to Bartholomew, I got his local recording, high bit rate, I think 15 megabits per second. We're not at that rate right now. It keeps knocking down. It's very prone to knock down. He sent me the high bit rate video. I examined around where it cut out. I examined other things flying in the same area as recorded by the same camera, and it looked to me like these were drones. So I put that out, it got millions and millions of views, multiple videos getting 3 million views, 14 million views. And Cullen called me as if nothing had ever happened. And he said, oh, this is great, you're a genius, nobody else could have found this. You know how he butters people up. And you gotta come on the show. And I did. I said, whatever, I'm not gonna rub the guy's face in it, you know, force him to apologize. Why do that? Let's let bygones be bygones and try to have a little reconciliation here. and it did a show. And then he brought the whole Blake Bednar's plane thing, which we later learned was Blake Bednar's. And again, all these people, Blake had been messaging George, like all these people know each other or something. How does Blake Bednar's have all this evidence? Why isn't he busy running his father's insurance company? How does he have time to be constantly contacting
Spider-Man.
students?
I love
That guy likes Spider-Man. I don't know how he has time. He's got a wife, he's got kids, he's got a family business to run, but yet he's busy contacting anybody and everybody at UVU, interacting with Samir Masi. I don't that video, and Cullen decides that Charlie was shot by a drone, which I said, no, that's ridiculous. There's no evidence that that happened. And he got irate. Do people remember that? Cullen was very angry that I didn't agree. Became irate when I refused to agree with his stupid theory that Charlie was shot by a drone. And by the way, he came to that conclusion, I don't know, September 19th, like right away. We didn't have evidence that he was shot by a drone. We had evidence that drones were engaged in electronic warfare. And then Ryan Mata started saying, oh, don't listen to Jason. He's telling people Charlie Kirk got shot by a drone. I never said that. Cullen said that. So then Cullen starts shitposting on my tweets and doing things that a friend and colleague would not do. And I noticed that. I'm sure a lot of other people didn't notice it, but I did. He stole our sponsor exclusive video and put it out for free. I was still getting subscribers a week or two after we did that show, and so he put it out for free. 7,000 people saw it in a day on his YouTube. I didn't get a single subscriber after that. This is the only way that I earn money. So by the way, if you enjoy the show, please do become a sponsor on subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth or on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com. If you're following me on X at JG_CSTT, you can subscribe there. Can't get the 4K. I realize we've been down in the basement at low megabits for most of this. I'm going to see if there's not a way I can continue to tweak the network to have it stay up closer to 14 megabits per second. There should be adequate bandwidth to do that. Let's see what it says right here. Ah, it's on its way up. 7, 8. I mean, this thing says 300, so what the hell is going on? Why is this thing so down in the basement? 500. That's crazy. Well, that's down. Let's see what it says up. Still 50, 60, 65. Got to look into that further. Anyway, so he's shitposting on my tweets, you know, putting out his nonsense theory that Charlie Kirk was shot by a drone, which I'm convinced was intended to just sow confusion and chaos in the same way that George Webb does. I say Imran Awan has an email server in the shed off the garage. He runs to the house and shows you the garage in the backyard. I say, you know, there's nobody on the water tower. George Webb goes to a different water tower and says, oh, there's somebody on the water tower. I say Adam Bartholomew's video was shut down by information warfare, electronic warfare drones. Cullen says Charlie was shot by a drone. It's just, in my opinion, designed to poison the well, confuse people, make people think that all of this stuff is, internet claptrap nonsense, and you shouldn't listen to it. And who's there? Kash Patel, telling you he was shot by a guy on the roof. We don't know. So I don't know. It's interesting to see. And by the way, Cullen disappears for 9 months and produces no content whatsoever and gains 7,000 followers in a week. You might say, oh, well, he was on Jimmy Dore, he was on this, he was on that. Look at Ken Silva. Ken Silva in 1 week was on Tucker Carlson, Mario Nawfal, all these shows. I don't think Ken gained 2,000 subscribers. Whoa. Now, wait a minute. Did that building, is that, no. They just renovated the bottom. There's another building around here that's been recently crushed. Over there, I think. We'll have to take a look at that. Got good network strength on this block. Not that interesting, however. What do people think about this? So, yes, Cullen comes out of nowhere, and now this is the most despicable thing that he's done. Remember how angry he got at that girl, Mindy Robinson, for using his footage in her Las Vegas documentary? Well, she used some of my footage as well, but as I recall, she left my logo on there, which is arguably helpful, because I think that video's gotten millions and millions of views, and people see crowdsource the truth there. Maybe they'll go look at more. What Cullen did is infinitely worse, because he went back, he looked at my video, plagiarized the research, went back to Adam Bartholomew's original video, took out the segments where I had identified drones, and put his own identifier on there, eliminating crowdsource the truth graphics, eliminating any attribution to me, and basically stealing my work. That is exactly what he claims, and worse, that Mindy did. So this person says, Cullen knew it would bring lots of donations from schizophrenic dummies shooting from helicopters. Well, I think he had better evidence with the helicopters. Again, I don't know, maybe that was wrong. He had a lot of evidence about the helicopters, but isn't that the way a limited hangout works? Gain your trust with good information, and then poison the well with bad. And then the other thing is, he's so protective of his identity. Why would you mess with the one person who could expose that if that was so important to you? The only thing I can think of is that it's worth much more to him. If someone offered you $5 million to parachute off a building, you might be more likely to do it than you would, just for kicks, let's say. Yeah, this is the building that got crushed. They haven't rebuilt it yet. Yeah, so I don't know. We've been mostly low bit the whole time. I have not seen Andrew Wilson and John Cullen in the same room at the same time, but you're right, they do behave in similar, I don't know, what is that, narcissism, assholism? They are pretty objectionable guys. We've been mostly low bit rate, so it hasn't really been the full bandwidth 4K that I want it to be, but there's more tweaking to be done. The system is improving. I would call this a successful beta test, and even if it didn't look its best today, nobody ever made any innovations standing still. I think it hears me criticizing it. It's moving back up 7, 8 megabits. So Yeah, nobody ever made any super duper innovations sitting around doing the same old thing. It's a beautiful day here in NYC, and that's basically what I wanted to tell everybody. So it's for you to decide, is it legitimate litigation or loathsome lawfare from Alexis, country music sensation Wilkins? I don't know. It looks like lawfare to me, but you as the audience must decide for yourselves. Thanks for watching, everybody.